Hello and welcome to Vax Talk. This is a podcast for people who are happily contributing to herd immunity.
Good job, everybody.
Woohoo! My name is Karen Ernst, and I am the Executive Director of Voices for Vaccines.
And I'm Nathan Boonstra. I'm a general pediatrician here at Blank Children's Hospital in Des Moines, Iowa.
The real dream for the book is that it begins shifting this national dialogue, which is trending in the wrong direction. That all of the trends say something ominous is happening, that we're seeing a big rise in non-medical vaccine exemptions, especially in some of the western states, that parents are increasingly questioning the safety of vaccines and worried that vaccines cause autism and other terrible things. We're seeing people, and especially children, not getting their flu vaccines. So in addition to their childhood vaccines, they're not getting their flu vaccines. And we're seeing a generation of girls and women denied protection against cervical cancer. I want to turn that around. And, that's a lot to ask from a book. As much as a book could have any influence over anything, that would be my hope, that it creates a paradigm shift, and maybe not only in the U.S., but what we're seeing in Europe, because I think the consequences are enormous. We're starting to see now this anti-vaccine movement, this American-style, European-style anti-vaccine movement trickle into some of the large middle-income countries like Brazil and Nigeria and India, and you can imagine the disaster when we start seeing declines in vaccine coverage there. We could even reverse global goals and Millennium Development Goals and Sustainable Development Goals. So I'm hoping that this is the beginning of a turnaround.
But being able to connect to each other, how has that formed sort of the anti-vaccine world?
Yeah, it allows you to kind of avoid, even if you're not doing it on purpose, opinions that aren't in line with what you want to hear. And we certainly have all heard about the echo chamber problem. We still really don't understand, as a research community, how bad that is. Because it seems like people actually are seeing, say if we're talking about political news, stuff from both sides, even if they, tend to see more from one side or the other. But certainly with things like the anti-vaccine movement, with a lot of conspiracy theory stuff, science denial stuff online, you're able to find communities of people who will reinforce certainly the fears that you have, the poorly founded scientific notions that you have, and kind of avoid the people who are going to call that out. And the anti-vaccine movement certainly has been really good at that, at creating these sort of isolated spaces where science-based objections are excluded and discouraged.
The U.S. does a lot to help other countries get people vaccinated because these importations are a risk for us. And the reasons that people don't get vaccinated in other parts of the world, there are layers and layers of reasons. The reasons are different in Europe than they are in more lesser developed countries, lower income countries. In a lot of countries, the cost of the vaccine and the cost, even more so, the cost of delivering any kind of health care to difficult to access rural areas is a major impediment to everyone getting vaccinated. The thing that's important to understand is that there are roughly 130 million children born every year. So it's a daunting task to get all of those children vaccinated before they're exposed to measles. And that's essentially what we need to do. That's what we're trying to do. But we haven't really we've gotten to the point where we're vaccinating roughly 85% of children in their first year of life when they're supposed to be vaccinated. And that's why we still have measles.
Have you read the book The Panic Virus? You might want to read it. So at his suggestion, I read The Panic Virus. It was good enough that I read it within a few days, and my main takeaway was that not only is anti-vaccine activism a problem, but pro-vaccine parents should be speaking up. So I went online thinking I'd make a few comments, and when I looked up vaccines on Facebook and I got to Vaccinate Your Family, and there was an anti-vaccine commenter. And I got a little more involved than I intended to.
That is
the understatement of the century.
Yeah, so I think there should be, if I had a magic wand, I would definitely try and spend most of the focus on younger individuals, because those are going to be the people in the future that become parents and have kids.
Yes.
And I think especially with campaigns that we've seen in the past, like anti-smoking or anti-drunk driving, it started with getting the message to the kids, and those kids stopped their parents from smoking or any bad activity. So it's through kids that change is possible.
Being empathetic, understanding that they are trying to do what's best for their babies is key, rather than attacking them for beliefs that they've settled on simply because they've been misinformed. So I think that's helpful, just to be empathetic and to understand why they're believing the things that they're believing. I think compassion, of course, is a very important part of it. Another important part of it is not judging. And that goes across the board, whatever I'm talking about, because, I have a daughter who struggled 2 times to produce breast milk. She did absolutely everything that a person could do, from herbal remedies to ordering drugs from Canada to doing acupuncture and wearing needles behind her ears and under her fingertips, cupping, everything. Plus had lactation support on a daily basis. And she was unable to produce breast milk. So the last thing we need to do is judge anyone about things like that, when what they want to do is do the best for their baby. And the same with immunization. So you can support them, empathize, show them compassion, but most of all, give them the facts. Clearly, with Emma not being able to breastfeed, all the facts in the world, she was already convinced that she wanted to breastfeed. She was already convinced that was the best thing for her baby. But to judge her because she couldn't produce breast milk, well, that's crazy. So we need to support parents with their choices, assuming those choices are safe ones. And when they're not safe ones, to empower them with information.